Aloha. Today I wanted to kind of go into like the my observation of the movie script that is the flat Earth information stream, and knowing that it's very part of uh, the big moves overall. Just putting some pieces together and just kind of letting them be, not like as a puzzle, just putting the puzzle pieces out there but not really locking them in. And I wanted to share some of the puzzle pieces that I've been looking at, just get this stream of thought going, and for myself and to share with people. But kind of like the inspiration of this video right now was this international flag that they came up with about a year ago. I think it was like May of last year. They came and, oh, this is the international flag approved. They had this picture of this astronaut, uh, black lady in an astronaut suit. So they're like trying to buy people into this system of thought, the same stream of thought that goes along with the Mars stuff, and asking for like almost $20 billion or however many billions of dollars that NASA's trying to expand. Then you got the private space industry like Elon Musk and Tesla and that whole thing, and Virgin Airlines. The whole like distraction push into space and away from looking at like what's right in front of our face. So don't look at what's in front of your face and what's going into your bodies. Like, don't look at the vaccines, don't look at the air, don't look at the water, don't look at the food, don't look at your community, don't look at the culture, don't look at the cancerous information coming through the television and the infrastructure of the television itself. Don't look at any of that stuff. Look at the hope. Look at the future. Look at, what is being sold. And flat Earth is definitely being sold. So regardless of who's a shill and who's like part of, distraction or slowing stuff down or whatever, the fact is Neil deGrasse Tyson got involved in this information flow. When he got involved, along with B.O.B., who's also in that world, and Tila Tequila, who's also in that world, and those are people who are in a different world in a sense. When you really think about it, they exist in the world of output information. But regular people exist in a world of input information. Like, we are getting the information from a particular source. Right now, that source is the internet and books and word of mouth and basic observations, because when we were asleep or when we were awake and just had our eyes closed, we were not looking at things the way we are seeing things now. Like me, for example, me looking at stuff a couple years or a year ago, about just under a year ago, like, I was awake to a layer of reality that involved knowing to an extreme depths of how far this control grid has been manipulated to be. And even then, I wasn't really aware of the depths of NASA and the flat Earth and all of that. So coming into that space now, it kind of unravels so many more depths of what's really involved here, and it goes into the very foundations, the infrastructures of everything on this planet, the very powers that be. This is why you see some people who are addressing this this issue from a very extreme fear perspective of all this stuff's gonna crash because we're like heavily dependent on this system. They're gonna send the government into make us do this and make us do that. And so a lot of people are already aware of that. A lot of people are already aware of the uh, the Orwellian thought patterns. The thing is, we're already in that space. Like, people are just waiting, like the stretching of time are just waiting for it to get worse or hit that crescendo to where we're like totally locked down. But this is a game that's being played on a psychological and conscious, subconscious and subconscious level that involves many different layers of our reality. So as much as we are a part of this system, we are like allowing this system to be. Like, the power comes from our engagement and non-engagement in the whole system itself. So really it's about understanding the depths of the situation itself from an observation perspective, and then once we get the full perspective view of how much is involved here, then together we'll be able to understand like what steps we're going to be able to take, which takes the whole idea of who's like a zoomed in perspective of like shields in the flat earth information flow or whatever is just like talking about like Alex Jones, or talking about like people who are, you know, sharing some information but not all information, or are definitely involved in certain things, but you know, just avoiding other things. Like, it's like zooming into deep into these perspectives that get real personal and focused on one particular stream of thought. It still keeps us from understanding our true power, our true power beyond the power grid itself. So this power grid, like the perfect example of this whole system is the stretching of time. And when Obama was, so like the Obama system right now is getting ready to be dropped. That ball is about to be dropped again. Like when George Bush was done, and then everybody was like, man, fuck everything. Like, this is so bad. People are so jacked up in this. They can't trust anybody in the government. And they were like, oh, we need to change the whole game. We need a black president. And they were like, oh, that's perfect. That'll shut a lot of people up. So that gave people like a little dopamine drip, a little like a distractor prescription drug, and it stretched time out to 8 years. Because basically today is no different than 8 years ago with Bush, and 8 years ago and today is no different than 40 and 50 years ago in the civil rights movement. No difference at all. Today is 1955, even before the civil rights movement. We haven't even gone into what we are moving into as like our next civil rights movement, because it's going to be all encompassing. It's not going to be no raggedy old little like idea of rights and freedoms and all that stuff. We are talking about the ground, the earth, the culture, the people, the blood of the genetic codings of all existence that's going on right now. This is no less than the deepest roots that we can even comprehend right now. We're talking about the stars, the sun, the moon, the earth, the air, the water, nothing less than that. So to even be getting caught up in the little bickering back and forth between flat or round, or who's for what side and who's for the other side, that shit is ridiculous. Because ultimately there is the so-called powers that be are banking on the fighting amongst themselves kind of mentality, and what that does is really just stretch the time. So like, for an example, when when Obama was inaugurated, this is my personal example. I never gave a shit about Obama being president because I already knew how back then how that system works. I knew he was just going to be another part of that whole program. But what really kept me in the last moment thinking something was going to happen was when he said he was going to close Gitmo. And that was the first thing he signed when he got in there. And then here we are today, shit's still going on. So that's just an example of how time gets stretched, just like in Back to the Future. When they came out with Back to the Future in 1985, they had you thinking in your head subconsciously and consciously that, oh, don't worry about it. Technology is going to evolve between 85 and 2015, because that year was in there, to where we would have flying cars in the future and everything will be clean and perfect and great, and all the politics would be great. No, that's not happening. In fact, we are in the lower version of that reality in part 2 of Back to the Future, where Biff, aka Donald Trump, is actually getting ready to be put in the seat of the big house of making moves. Like this is that game being played. It's the alternate universe, but it's actually this part of this universe. And this goes into the Mandela effect of either you engage in your reality or other entities will engage your reality for you. So when they take energy, so when I saw this flag, I saw what they were doing with the sacred geometry and the whole like oneness community, the new age, new world order. This is how I was bringing in the or locking in the new age community into the new world order. This is when it got formal for me, is when I saw this image on here. And then when you look into the origins of this flag, they don't say anything about the sacred geometry or the spiritual connections of the seed of life in here. They just glaze over how this is whatever, and this is water. Like this is supposed to represent earth, and this is supposed to represent water, and then unity or something like that. So they don't go over any of this stuff, which is very important because it's going to be utilized as like the selling point for this new age spirituality, because religion is going to get balled up. This is why the Pope was at the White House. Religion's going to get balled up in all this stuff. Technology is going to get balled up into this. NASA, the United Nations, the flags that we use, the very flags that we use, and they're gonna have to sell you. We've been caught up in the first 5 parts of this movie because we've constantly been okay with the villain being the villain, because we've had a lesser of two evils, and we've just been accepting that. Like, well, at least it's not that bad. And that storyline's being played right now with Donald Trump. So you can't have a movie unless you have a villain. So energetically, you can see this movie has been playing for so long that the actual villain has to be out there in your face as a Donald Trump, as a Hillary Clinton, as a Bernie Sanders, being seen what it is right now. But Donald Trump, the main one that you can see as a villain, it has to be out there in your face, because the information that's available to understand outside of that reality is available to you. And if you believe in there, this is like the balances of magic. Like if he wouldn't be out there doing what he's doing if we didn't have like the information that we have right now. They wouldn't be able to do as much as the so-called they are able to do unless we had the ability to counteract that movement by just being aware of the information and aware of our own will and our own power to the depths. This is why they're bringing in this international flag with sacred geometry on it. This is why it's going international. This is why the New Age is coming up right now so big. This is why Donald Trump, the villain, is outside right now, in your face. This is why the race war and the fear and the vaccines and all this stuff is out there, and the alien disclosure. This is the last chapter of the villain movie that they're playing, and they need that villain in order to go into the next chapter, which is the hero version. And this is the hero. this we're right at the cusp of this critical mass of awareness of, you know, what's really going on here, how far these storylines go. It's not just chemtrails, fluoride in the water, mercury vaccines, the RFID chip. It's not just subtle manipulations in the Mandela effect, or giant manipulations like the globe theory and the flat Earth, little stuff back and forth. It is all encompassing. This is down to the blood, the very nature of the human experience, consciousness itself, the melanated black and brown peoples on this planet themselves, culture, the indigenous people. This is like Christopher Columbus stuff times 100, and the game is to get people locked into, oh no, this is just George Bush, or this is just the Rockefellers, or this is just the Rothschilds and stuff like that. You can see how these are like layers of engagement, and it's no less than Christopher Columbus times 100. So you got to think smallpox blankets. You got to think just straight up genocide and taking over of an entire land, and installing people there to steal and poison the land, and calling it settlements. Like this is 1492 today, and in order to keep people from seeing how deep that story goes, they have to switch from the villain, because Christopher Columbus back then was obviously the villain, to be seen as a villain. Even back then, the indigenous people were realizing that they just didn't have a way to communicate with each other the way we have today. So we're communicating, and we know the bigger story, the bigger pictures that are going on, and we're seeing that this all exists. But the thing is, we get distracted. We get caught up in their illusions, their magic, and our will is taken away. We are in a fear state. We are stuck in obedience mode and can't let go of these slave masters, because we've been so caught up in how good this is, and how good things are, how far we've come, and whatever else we believe in. So basically, they're using the overcompensation of NASA and their Model T spaceships only on a television to make you think that you're going to the Mars, or you're going into outer space and everything like that. So they need more money. They need more of your research, your trust, to believe in the good stuff, so they can sell more of the bad stuff. And it's all being sold with fear and obedience. So the fact that the only way that the police state could exist the way it does today, and the only way that the politics could exist that it does today, is if NASA was up there existing the way it is today, and all the other NASA groups around the world agreeing with it the same way. Because it's a very small group of entities that are working to keep this dramatic plot going on. There's very small little anchor points, little like parts of the story that are being played off in this whole scenario, that we're not really putting all the pieces together, because we're too caught up in the the tunnel vision, and we get caught up in like one version of the reality. No, this is the earth itself. These are the waters, the air. You have to understand, if this is you, then you have to understand who you are, where you are, what you are, who your family is, what your culture is, where you came from, what all this is, what land you are on. This involves the very nature of existence. This is not no little ass thing. So if you're talking about freedom and all this other stuff, you need to understand what land this is, how far this story goes, who's already been in line taking these hits at the front of the lines before it got as bad as it does today, or just as bad as people are starting to realize it today. People still locked up in jail, political prisoners still locked up in jail from the civil rights movement, still locked up in jail from Wounded Knee in 75. People still locked up all over the place. They've already been in that sort of mentality of the big brother and the RFID chip and the vaccines. It's people already in there like that. It's land that's already being desecrated right now every day. This stuff that people are waiting for some other entity to move on you, that stuff has already happened. It's been happening. It's only being revealed to be happening on a bigger scale right now is because people are becoming more aware of this information with the internet and finding out that, you know, it's been going on. They're finding out that this stuff exists, just like I found out that the earth wasn't round only about 9 months ago, and then have been able to install that into seeing how far this story goes with 9/11 and Pearl Harbor and all the other false flags and storylines that go along with the stuff that we're experiencing every day, like chemtrails, fluoride in the water, and genetically modified foods. It's no different. So these people, these are magicians. They are working your mind. So if you can't control your own emotions, you can't control your own awareness of this space to inhabit your own power field and understand how deep this story really goes, and there's still more work to do. It is not about any one thing. If you get in this hopeless state of being and you're just like, oh, well, what are we supposed to do? Or what are they going to do? And all this other stuff. You get in that reactionary mode like somebody else is going to do something to you, then you've already lost. If you haven't found the true power of yourself, the codings of who you are, where your power comes from, then you've already lost whatever punk ass battle you think is going to happen in the whole New World Order agenda and all that shit. That is the movie being played. If you are still scared, if you're caught up in number one of this whole move, then you already stepped in a pile of shit before you can even make any moves into any kind of understandings that are deeper into, you know, you getting out of the shit. So we can't get caught up in the or only get caught up. You can't have any true control over your emotions. Ultimately, we're still in this human experience. But when you start to become susceptible to where it controls your reality, then that's when shit gets out of hand. And this is the world that is being dictated. This is that hopeless state of being, that separation in the so-called flat earth, streamline or community or whatever like that. Like this is that separation mode is being manipulated to keep that focus in a tunnel vision, and it's all part of a movie. And these fake universe, these artificial magicians are basically jump starting an old ass Model T, saying that they're gonna go to NASA or going to Mars, saying that they're gonna unify the entire nations of the planet, saying that they're gonna do all these things if we just give them more money, stretch this time out. This is not. It's more of the same. So whatever they is going to do, then that's just going to be whatever it is that they do. But whatever our maximum potential that can be done in all the doingness is going to be done by the people who wake up and start doing stuff outside of the limitations and the reactionary frames of thought and the hopeless state of beings of somebody else dictating your world for you. You have to understand that this shit is, yeah, it goes as far as, like I said before, this is what you have to see this from 1492 perspectives. This is a five, no less. The big picture is a no less than a 500-year-old story. What was happening 500 years ago from a perspective of just the United States on this land, what happened there? Start from there and then work our way back to understanding what's happening today. This is no less. We got to go beyond the civil rights. As far the civil rights time frame had an opportunity to do what we're doing today back then. It was only the time for the people, obviously it happened, to do what it is that they did to the extent that they did it, because that was the level of consciousness that we were at as a whole back then. We are at a level of consciousness today that is encompassing the very nature of this entire earth plane existence. This is beyond 1965. This is beyond the 14th Amendment. This is beyond even Christopher Columbus. This is the very nature of spirit and the soul. And this is why they put this sacred geometry on this flag, is because they know it's this big, and they got to sell this story to be this big, to be rooted in your genetic code, in your spirit, in your soul. They have to set themselves up. The so-called they have to set the dramatic plot, the villain, the hero. They have to set the composing the orchestra and the glorified plot. They have to set all this up to the depths of your soul. That's how far this is going back. And it really ultimately has nothing to do with NASA. NASA really is just an actor in the movie. Like, if you're just getting caught up in one of the actors in the movie, if you're getting caught up in in shills or whatever in a movie, you're getting caught up in side actors of a movie. You're not looking to the actual movie, the cameras, the actual energy that's powering the cameras, the people watching the movie, like the money to make the movie, and like what money is and how that whole energy is involved in this whole system and what we're going to do outside of that whole world. Like, it goes that far, and it's only up to us. If we go any less than that, then we're just going to be eating the doggy biscuits, the same kind of doggy biscuits that were sold back in 1965. Shit. So yeah, the next step is trying to jumpstart a Model T into space and try to tell you that they're going to Mars, and use the cameras to tell you that they're going to Mars so you can give them $19 billion because they gave you a flag and said everything is okay, because they don't have the villain anymore. They're gonna clean things up, and they know who the they is. They're gonna reveal or whatever it is that they want to reveal in order to get you trusting that experience and give your will away, still caught up in the fear of unknowing and the obedient state, because they're going to sell that as you're locked into the technology already, with being codependent on your cell phone and all that other stuff that involves your food and water, your very existence, your work. If it's still within the money system, best believe you're going to have to give your will away and be obedient. The distractions of the television and everything else is going to get pumped up even more. This is why Elon Musk is out there, and all these private contractors are sending rockets into space, so-called space, so they can just making other movies for you to be watching, other illusions for you to get caught up into. The dramatic plot has to be activated. So this distraction, television as a distraction, and like NASA as the reality, but it's a reality that's still a drama that has you locked in with ideas of evolution and your reality, and what who we are, where we are. So the TV into like so the TV is like the TV is like your regular day realities, and the dramatic plot would be like the Neil deGrasse NASA cosmos existence that you believe is your reality. So they play these roles for you to get locked up into it and lock it in with sacred symbols like this, so you can get lost in the sauce of believing, and give your will away. The dramatic plot has to be locked in with little ideas like the theory of gravity and Einstein being pumped out in your face, and like, oh yeah, we trust these people. They got to get you locked in. Trump and the theys, the bankers and all that stuff, and also making us the bad people. It's like, oh, we're the ones that we have to change. We have to change this stuff so we can be one, and we can, jumpstart this Model T so we can go to Mars. And this is all spaceball technology. It's all a bunch of assholes talking shit. The hero, that's they're kind of orchestrating is out there to be the us and the them, like the people who are talking about stuff and sharing, like they're gonna glorify all this stuff out there, but it's still gonna be a controlled demolition. It's still gonna be part of that whole system. But this is mainly just, they can't have a hero unless they have a villain. So they put the Trump out there to maintain that space of being a villain, so they can bring in their idea of a hero, and it won't necessarily be an individual. It'll be like an idea. The ideas are the ones that get you locked into illusions, and then they orchestrate this heroic change into your face, and then glorify it with the television, and maintain a new plot outside of the villain plot, like a change plot, and then tell you that it's victory, it's all good, it's all great. Still selling fear to you, still selling your control and your obedience and lack of will. If we don't come up with, the systems on a out of the tunnel vision and within our own community, and put these pieces together ourselves. This is how we understand our reality itself. This where the Mandela effect comes in, to where we create our own reality. And we say that all the time. Like you create your own reality. It's deeper than that, though. It's very true. But when you have illusionists creating your reality, you will get stuck in whatever illusions they create for you. Stretching time is already happening right now, telling you, oh, it's going to happen in May, it's going to happen in April, it's going to happen in March, it's going to happen in June, it's going to happen. All these gonna happens are just another version of like Obama. It was like, oh yeah, and leading up to him becoming president. And then when he got in the seat, he's like, oh, I'm going to close Gitmo. Like 8 years, you lost 8 years. Give him the Nobel Peace Prize in the beginning of that, with 2 wars still going on, in order to make you trust what's happening. This is why the whole Nobel Peace Prize stuff is going on. And then ultimately, you're selling your hope and all that. Your energy is invested in the hope of somebody else creating your reality for you, when they're really dictating your own movement through fear and this false sense of movement. So I just wanted to share that little thread and get that off of my chest, and because I was seeing that, and kind of just like expand the conversation outside of those just one-sided like perspectives, and see what's really at stake here. So yeah, that's it. So thanks for joining me. Until next time, peace, love, and harmony.